we construct a 30 degrees angle? To construct an angle, we need its two arms, the initial arm and the terminal arm. Let's draw a ray BC, which will be our initial arm. Remember, a ray originates from a point and extends indefinitely in one direction. We need to construct a 30 degrees angle by creating a terminal arm. We keep the compass on point B and set it to any convenient width. With this width, we draw an arc from above B, crossing ray BC at point D. Do not change the width of the compass after you've drawn this arc. With the width unchanged, we keep the compass at point D and draw an arc above D, creating point E. And again, do not change the width of the compass. We move the compass to point E and draw an arc across the previous arc, creating point A. We draw a ray starting from point B towards A. And yes, this is a 30-degree angle. Remember, once we make the first arc with the compass, we make two more like this without changing its width. How do we construct a 30 degrees angle? To construct an angle, we need its two arms, the initial arm and the terminal arm. Let's draw a ray BC, which will be our initial arm. Remember, a ray originates from a point and extends indefinitely in one direction. We need to construct a 30 degrees angle by creating a terminal arm. We keep the compass on point B and set it to any convenient width. With this width, we draw an arc from above B, crossing ray BC at point D. Do not change the width of the compass after you've drawn this arc. With the width unchanged, we keep the compass at point D and draw an arc above D, creating point E. And again, do not change the width of the compass. We move the compass to point E and draw an arc across the previous arc, creating point A. We draw a ray starting from point B towards A. And yes, this is a 30-degree angle. Remember, once we make the first arc with the compass, we make two more like this without changing its width. All you need to understand is the number line. Positive numbers to the right of 0 and negative numbers to the left of 0. You will hear various complicated definitions of real numbers, but here's the simplest one. Any number that can be plotted on a number line is called a real number. Let's look at a few examples. Say -2. Yes, it can be plotted on the number line. It's this point. So -2 is a real number. What about 0.5? Even though it's not an integer, it can be plotted on the number line. It will be somewhere here. Now let's look at another number, √2, which is also called as square root of 2. If we calculate the value of √2, we get it as 1.414 approximately. The digits after the decimal point do not end. These kind of numbers are called non-terminating decimal numbers. And yes, these numbers too can be plotted on the number line. Plotting a non-terminating number might sound weird, but yes, it's possible. So √2 is also a real number. And what about the special number pi? It approximately equals 3.14159. Pi is also a non-terminating decimal number. And yes, it can be plotted on the number line, which makes it a real number. So that's our definition. Any number that can be plotted on a number line is called a real number. Now let's talk a bit about the different kinds of numbers we know. The first kind is numbers with terminating decimals. Numbers like 0.375. The number stops at a point and does not go on and on. Then we have non-terminating recurring decimals. Numbers like 0.6666 and so on. The sixes don't end. It's called recurring since the same number reoccurs, and non-terminating, since it reoccurs infinitely. And the third type is non-terminating, non-recurring decimals. We just saw an example of this type, root 2. It approximately equals 1.4142 and the digits after the decimal do not end. Hence, it's called non-terminating. It's called non-recurring since there's no specific pattern of reoccurrence. Broadly, these are the three types of numbers we see in mathematics: terminating, non-terminating recurring, and non-terminating non-recurring. These two categories together are called rational numbers, and the numbers in this category are called irrational numbers. These two categories together form real numbers. This is the other definition of real numbers. Rational numbers and irrational numbers together form real numbers. In the second part of this video, we will look at all categories real numbers comprise of. Under real numbers. Real numbers can broadly be classified into rational numbers and irrational numbers. Irrational numbers are numbers like root 2, root 3, pi, etc. These numbers cannot be expressed in a fraction form. Like p divided by q, they are also called non-terminating, non-recurring decimal numbers. And rational numbers are broadly classified into two types. Fractions are in the form p by q. Fractions are sometimes referred to as non-integers. They are numbers like 2 by 3 or minus 17 by 12. The numerator and the denominator have to be integers. P and q cannot be anything like root 2 or pi. Integers are basically fractions with denominator as 1. They are also broadly divided into two categories: negative integers, and the second category is 0 and positive integers. Negative integers are like minus 3, minus 12, minus 109, etc. 0 and positive integers are called whole numbers, which start off with 0 and go on to infinity. So whole numbers include all positive integers along with 0. And these positive integers also have a special name. They are called natural numbers, which include all positive integers starting from 1. So real numbers pretty much include all the numbers you've seen. All numbers which can be expressed as p by q, which are rational numbers. And also the ones which cannot be expressed as p by q, called irrational numbers. All the categories you see are given one-lettered names. Real numbers are called R. But not all categories are named based on the first letter. Rational numbers are called Q and irrational numbers are called P or Q dash. The entire set of numbers is given the letter. So P is an entire set of irrational numbers. Q is an entire set of rational numbers. Set of integers is called I or Z. The set of whole numbers is called W. And the set of natural numbers is called n. Let's understand this chart diagrammatically. Let this be an entire set of real numbers. With real numbers, we have rational numbers and irrational numbers. Within rational numbers, we have integers, and within integers, we have whole numbers. And within whole numbers, we have natural numbers. So everything seems to be a rational number. What's not a rational number? Square root of any negative number is not real. Something like square root of minus 1 or square root of minus 4. These numbers are not real numbers. What's a rationalizing factor? In the previous video, we used the rationalizing factor to make an irrational denominator rational. Consider an irrational number like 7 root 3. How do we find the rationalizing factor of this irrational number? Let's understand the concept of a rationalizing factor first. We just have to ask ourselves one question. 7 root 3 multiplied by what number gives us a rational number? This number here will be the rationalizing factor of 7 root 3. Let's try multiplying 7 root 3 with root 3. Root 3 multiplied by root 3 equals 3. So this expression will equal 7 multiplied by 3, which equals 21. Yes, 21 is a rational number. We multiplied our number with root 3 to get a rational number. So we can say that root 3 is the rationalizing factor of 7 root 3. Now here's something interesting. Think about it. Root 3 is an irrational number, and if we would have multiplied root 3 with 7 root 3, we would still get 21. Root 3 when multiplied with 7 root 3 gives us a rational number. So can we say that 7 root 3 is a rationalizing factor of root 3? Yes, of course we can. 7 root 3 is a rationalizing factor of root 3. A rationalizing factor is sometimes also called a conjugate. So both these numbers here are rationalizing factors or conjugates of each other. Is the rationalizing factor of a number unique? Is root 3 the only rationalizing factor of 7 root 3? Let's try multiplying 7 root 3 with 2 root 3. 7 multiplied by 2 is 14 and root 3 multiplied by root 3 equals 3. This will equal 14 multiplied by 3, which equals 42. 42 is a rational number. So we can say that 2 root 3 is indeed a rationalizing factor of 7 root 3. We have found 2 rationalizing factors of 7 root 3, which proves that a rationalizing factor of a number is not unique. Now let's try multiplying 7 root 3 with 3 root 3. 7 multiplied by 3 is 21 and root 3 multiplied by root 3 equals 3. Hence this will equal 21 multiplied by 3, which equals 63. And 63 is also a rational number. So 3 root 3 is also a rationalizing factor of 7 root 3. Yes, it means that an irrational number has infinite rationalizing factors. So we can say that root 3 is the lowest positive rationalizing factor of 7 root 3. If we have 7 root 3 in the denominator, we can use any of these numbers to rationalize it, but it is recommended that we take the lowest positive one. It's pretty simple to find the rationalizing factors of such numbers. We just have to make sure that we get a rational number as the product. But what if the number is like root 3 plus root 7? What if we had this in the denominator? How can we rationalize this expression? We will see that in the next part of this video.